loved one, what we first miss, of course, is the physical presence of that loved one. We cannot talk with them anymore. We cannot touch them. We cannot laugh with them, cry with them, share a meal together, go to the movies together, share wonderful conversations together. And we deeply miss the physical presence of that loved one. And we feel like there's a big hole left in our life or in our hearts or minds. But I'd like to share with you today a wonderful teaching from the Vietnamese Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us that when we lose a loved one, we have to then begin to see them, know them, sense them in other forms, And I'd like to share with you a passage from his book. This is a passage in which he helped a young father who had recently lost his young son. One day, I took the hand of a young father who had just buried his little son. I invited him to walk with me to discover his son in other forms. His son had come to Plum Village when he was very young and learned to enjoy vegetarian food. He gave me his allowance and extra pocket money and asked me to buy a plum tree and plant it for him. He wanted to participate in the work of supporting hungry children in the world by planting a fruit tree in Plum Village. He knew that a plum tree gives a lot of fruit. He knew that we could sell the fruit and send the money to hungry children in the third world. He learned to do walking and sitting meditation, and he practiced the Dharma very well. When he was sick, I went to Bordeaux and visited him in the hospital. He said to me, "Grandpa Monk, I will do walking meditation for you." He got down from his bed, although he was quite weak, and walked beautifully for me. Shortly after my visit, he died. The day of his cremation, I sprinkled the consecrated water and chanted the Heart Sutra for him. A week later, I took the hand of his father during a walking meditation and showed him many other manifestations of his little boy. Together, we visited the plum tree that I had planted for his son, and as we sat in the afternoon light, we saw his little boy waving to us from every bud and branch. Now, they didn't literally see the boy waving to them, but Thich Nhat Hanh helped this father see his son in other forms. See, your son gave us his allowance, his extra spending money, and he said, buy this tree, plant the tree, and we'll sell the fruit to help other hungry children. This tree is because of your son. Your son is a part of this tree. And that's how he helped his father see his son in other forms. All of you had to incur this most difficult life experience of losing a loved one. And I'm sure you deeply missed the physical presence of that loved one. But now we have to begin to see them in other forms. Another way that we can come to see our loved one in other forms is through their karma. Their karma means their thoughts, their words, and their deeds. We create karma by how we think, by what we say, and what we do. And that continues on even after our physical life comes to an end. Think about it. Think about the loved one you remember today. Are you guided by your life through what they thought, how they thought, what they said, and how they lived? This is another form of how we can know our years ago, I remember talking to one of our members. He had lost his father recently, and his father was a gardener, and he worked with his father in the gardening every day, going from home to home, trimming trees and mowing lawns. And he shared with me, since I really miss my dad, but every day as I go through my gardening work that I took over after my dad, I hear my dad's voice throughout the day. Oh, let's work a little harder today, or oh, let's stop for lunch now, or whatever, all the things he used to say throughout the day as we work together. I continue to hear my dad's voice. And so he began to know his father in a different form. Another form that we can come to know and sense our loved ones is through the one word, Namwami Dabutsu. We might think, well, how do we come to know our loved ones through Namwami Dabutsu? But Namwami Dabutsu is not simply a word, it is not simply a recitation, but it is a deep and profound truth. When we come to receive Namwami Dabutsu, the Nimbutsu is a deep and profound truth in our hearts and minds, then our hearts and minds are always with our loved ones, in the past, in the present, and in the future. And as an example, illustration of this, I'd like to read a short poem by a Shin Buddhist that goes as follows. If you miss me, say Namwami Dabutsu, for I too live in the 6 letters. If you miss me, say Namwami Dabutsu, for I too live in the 6 letters. I think the person who composed this poem came to receive Namwami Dabutsu as this deep and profound truth, something that goes even beyond their physical life. And this individual knows that for their loved ones that they leave behind, if they miss them, if they simply recite the Nimbutsu, if they simply receive it in their hearts and minds, then through the Nimbutsu, they will always be with them. When you feel deep sadness, loneliness, not physically being able to be with that loved one that you deeply miss, perhaps you may want to softly call the Nimbutsu, Namwami Dabutsu,